Hello everyone, this is Bob and Threadbare, and welcome back to the Human Revolution.
Are you sure about this? I mean, it's not some tiny cable station you're infiltrating.
Zal mentioned an Eliza and a phone call to Picus. Put them together, it has to mean Eliza Cassan is in on this.
You don't think that's a bit of a leap? The world's most famous news anchor working with a mercenary hit squad?
We can argue the fine points later. Set me down on the tower. I'll get in from the roof.
So, welcome to Montreal.
Jensen, it's Pritchard. Malik tells me you want Eliza Cassan's location.
If it's not too much trouble.
It's not. I bypassed the firewall easily, and I've pulled up a 3D model of their floor plan. Her office is in the tower, room 404.
On my way.
Almost too easy, by the sound of things. Anyway, apparently, Montreal was supposed to be a third hub. But they ran out of money, and so instead we just have the mission that would have come at the end of it. Oh, looks like there's some sort of arcology dome over there in the distance. Also, they couldn't bother finishing the background drawing there. I mean, it goes all the way around, but it doesn't quite go all the way to the base of the tower here. But yeah, and go figure, the Montreal is the location of the developer, but, you know, I can't be too upset about that, because the original Deus Ex was going to have a mission take place in Texas, and, well, that's where, oh, upgrade. That's where the original developer was based, in Texas. So honestly, it's just sort of fitting. The only difference is that the Montreal guys got at least some of their work done. Alright, now let's have a look at this. Ammo capacity. Shotgun. Damn it. I want to drink the beer. Get up to 166. Alright. So this would have been locked with like a 2 or a 3, I think, if I hadn't come in from the wrong side. Interesting book to just sort of leave lying around like that. And this room does not have a function nor anything inside it except for one thing. A wall. A wall you can punch through. Alright. I'm not seeing any enemies on the radar here, although there is a turret down there, and a couple of cameras. Anybody around here? Well, let's listen to the news. It is different. It just started.
The city of Canberra saw intense fighting today when Australia's 12th Commando Regiment attempted to oust a group of Free States insurgents from the suburbs. The pro-China rebels, who are demanding that the South Australian Federation release control of vital oil reserves and recognize the so-called legal Northern government in exile, used improvised explosive devices to keep the regiment at bay. Sources close to the fighting informed me that the situation had reached a bloody standstill when a fully augmented unit from Bell Tower Associates moved in. Within moments, the rebels' defenses were penetrated and the fighting swiftly ended. Following the battle, Australian General Charles Bragg thanked Bell Tower for its assistance, declaring that this war against separatism should soon be over. Given that Bell Tower Associates has been contracted to send in even more augmented troops, he may very well be right. This is Eliza Cassan, reporting to you live from Picus.
It's the closest they've ever been to a pro augmentation stance. Although it sounds like it's specifically because it is a pro bell tower stance and an anti Northern rebels. Someone spilled their coffee. Seems like it's still warm. Oh dear. Someone evacuated the whole building and is worried about parking regulations. Oh, and here's the upcoming news. Taggart to speak in Detroit. Man, the screens are so quiet in here. Oh, scandal in Australia. TYM attacked by a lunatic. Unknown identity of the intruder. I guess that's how they're spinning my little stunt over in China. Awfully quiet around here. And a whole bunch of mess. But on the plus side, it means that I can explore this map area before killing everybody. And it will be killing them, actually, in this case. Huh. Shut.
Jensen, something's not right. Picus is a 24-hour global news network. Why isn't anyone answering their phones?
I'll get back to you on that.
Alright, that's that section taken care of. And this here is the online office. These here are vending machines. I'm trying to tip this one over, but it's not going well. It just does not want to tip. Luckily, I can just throw it, and that works. Blocking off the staircase here. Of course, there's another one over there. But luckily, I've also got another vending machine. Damn. But yeah, like I said, I will be in kill mode for this mission. Because I'm not going to be facing normal security. I am going to be facing a bell tower hit squad who was brought in specifically to kill Adam Jensen. So I don't really have to feel too bad about, dealing with law enforcement or security. Because that's not who I'm going up against. Apparently none of the screens up here are hackable. Let's just take a look at this ventilation shaft here. Looks like it drops me off pretty close to my destination. This would be a conference room here.
This is Eliza Cassan.
Go figure that in the Picus building they actually turn their TVs down. Alright, let's start snooping. I mean, this isn't our first, snooping. But you know what I'm getting at.
Access granted.
Alright. Standard mail here. Talking about the security doors, I guess. Ooh, and Employee Day. From the Social Club.
Looks like everyone left in a hurry, Pritchard. The place is deserted.
Because somebody triggered a fire alarm and then silenced it. I suggest you find Miss Cassan quickly and get out of there.
What, so not everybody knew that they had to evacuate? I guess that's standard operating procedure from these guys. Sure are a lot of shelves around here. And cardboard boxes. Ooh. Passwords. Nice. That should save me a little time. Oh, wait. Now what's over here? Oh.
Check the emergency activation logs, Pritchard. I've got a sealed fire door here, and I suspect it's not supposed to be.
All the building's fire doors are locked down, but you should have a clear path to room 404.
Well, no, that's even more suspicious. What are they waiting for? Man, there's a lot of shelves around here. And stun gun darts. Do they often have to use them against their fellow employees? Is that why there's so many around here? Oh, Mont Royal. I'm pretty sure that's a sports team. And bilingual emails. But yeah, of course, this is basically a big take on biased reporting. So a lot of these emails are talking about how, you know, they need to phrase very precisely the stories and the articles they upload, so that it presents the correct viewpoint and convinces people of the correct opinions. You know, you can't go too far, because if it becomes obvious that you're biased, no one will listen to you. But if you present your information in a way that supports one argument in a Praxis kit, just sitting in one of these drawers? But yeah, they got these approved vocabulary lists. And they've got these bell tower defense websites that they own, but they don't take responsibility for, because that would be evidence that they were biased. Well, got the email for this one too. Yeah, but you can't just go and call an Olympic runner an ogged up floozy, because, well, that's just too obvious. You leave that for the comments section to say. And then you just, you know, you don't delete the posts. Unless they come from inside the office. And you don't call him an anti-augmentation activist, you call him a pro-human activist. Sort of like the whole pro-choice versus pro-life thing. Nobody's against anything somehow. They're just in favor of different things. That's all it is. Well, unless they're your enemies. Because they're against you. You gotta be clear about that. I mean, unless it would be too obvious, of course. You know, they have the map. So why don't they show it behind the window here? What's up with that? And what's up with this magazine being stuck inside the chair? Oh, Morgan Everett. There's a familiar name. Apparently he was working with Picus back in the day. Oh, we're almost there. Death to the brown boxes. Man, there's a lot of stun gun darts around here. Do they just like electrocuting each other? Is that a game around here? Oh, and here's a particularly sticky situation. They want to cover Panchaea, because if they don't, they will lose ratings to the organizations that are covering Panchaea. But they also don't want to promote the fact that it is that all of the workers there are augmented, and it could not have been created without augmentation. So they needed a good spin angle in order to cover it. And that email was about coming up with such an angle. Which is that augmented people are changing the world. Obviously, they need regulation. That's an email about the email. But enough wandering around. Time to visit 404.
Hello, Adam.
Zal tell you I was coming, Miss Cassan?
Please, call me Eliza. Zhao Yunru did not tell me. She does not know you have discovered this connection.
So how did you find out?
I have been watching you for some time. Ever since receiving orders to temporarily disrupt satellites over the Detroit metropolitan area 6 months ago.
The night Megan's team was taken. You jammed their GPL so everyone would think they were dead.
Yes. Although I only came to that conclusion later. I find my realization disturbing. I wish we could discuss this further, but it seems I have alerted them to your presence. If you leave now, you may be able to escape.
Oh, I'm leaving. But you're coming with me.
I am sorry, Adam. I truly am.
Jensen, get out of there now!
Tell me you saw that, Pritchard.
Later! Right now, I'm detecting multiple radio signals converging on your location. It's a trap!
We knew that. And I'm not leaving without Eliza Cassan. So find her while I look for a way to get downstairs.
See? They've got the background map. So why was it missing from that other office? Right, anyway. So it's a trap. That's a kill squad. Created just for Adam Jensen.
Get on the upper catwalk and take a sniper. You're probably crawling around here somewhere. Let's get you some better sight lines. Yes, sir. You, I want you to secure that exit over there. Right away, sir.
Well, unfortunately for them, they won't be getting upstairs.
Anyone got him?
Not if they're already downstairs, that is.
Possible situation. Get on it. I'll back you up.
Alright. Time for the pistol to come into its own. One shot, one kill. No one sees me, no one hears me. Oh, damn it. Moved.
Anyone got him? Get him! On him!
Yeah, for some reason, they can alert to when you miss, but not to when you kill someone. Anyway, they mostly just seem confused, so they probably didn't see me or locate where I was exactly. Uh-oh. Now they spotted me. Well, that was pointless. Uh-oh, someone got up here. Oh. That one closed door. Oh, Jesus. He's got his combat rifle stuck in his guts. No wonder he was twitching on his way out. But yeah, turns out that there's an extra staircase behind the closed door. Actually, I could have prepared for this. I could have put a copier here. But I needed to have seen the map. Because the map would have told me that there was a staircase here. I think I remembered it during one of my practice runs, but oh well. Doesn't seem like anybody else is climbing up there though, which is odd. Oh wait, no, there he is. And he set off the mine too. So, anybody else coming up here? Looks like they're in the neighborhood. But yeah, they're back down to alarmed instead of hostile, and they will not go back down to neutral. Because they know I'm around here somewhere, else they would not have come here to try and attack me.
Don't go!
Anyway, why the hell is Eliza Cassan in charge of hacking and alerting the authorities here? She's a news anchor, not a news maker. For all we know, she's not even a reporter. And, well, let me just save you some questions later and say that this mystery will be answered.
Tyrants!
What the hell? How did he know where I was? Why is he trying to do a long-range shot with that shotgun? Because the shotgun in this game is your pretty typical shotgun, which means it does crap unless you're at absolute point-blank range.
Sir! Clear. Nothing up here. Stand down. You got away, but stay alert. Maybe over there?
Oh good, they're going into my sightlines.
Anyone got him?
Maybe this can do the trick.
Whoa, whoa.
Alright. Well, I don't need to explore around here, since I did that first. Apparently there's still someone else left alive. But yeah, all I need to do is check the bodies. Finish off the ones I didn't kill. Because when I go kill mode, I am thorough. Oh, this door's open now, too. Good thing I turned off that camera. Oh, that leads into the server farm. I pressed the wrong button there, I think.
Access granted.
Alright. Let's see what is around here, aside from the mainframes. And the plugs. And what looks like a lot of mist, because this is probably very well cooled. Apparently this is where they stuff the sports commentator. Nah. Oh, there's a reason to be down here. A weak wall. You know, I think the pistol would be more effective at this because it goes through armor. But, you know, you gotta save the ammunition for actual enemies. Wow, spirits get you wasted. Not for very long, though. So this is why you would go through the server room. Because there's another weak wall down here. Oh, and there's a person leaning against the wall. But he's kind of looking at another guy, and I don't want to alert the whole floor. So I'm kind of torn because I haven't shown off the kill animation yet. Oh, but he does look like he's walking away, so... Well, if this guy's alone, then why not? Let's RoboCop the shit out of this guy. Alright, but there are other ways down, and I want to explore them before I commit to going into the next floor. Let's see what else we can find around here. Yep, that's the Picus Web newsroom up here. Oh, there's something in the... Oh. Who puts a weapon upgrade next to the toilet, honestly? Alright, but this... gets me behind these kiosks? News kiosks, I guess? Puts me in a good position to hit the guy patrolling the lobby here. Just as soon as he turns around, of course. Yeah, the rate of fire is much better. I mean, I always seem to treat the weapon as if it were semi-automatic. But there is still some delay between shots that disappears once you start applying the rate of fire upgrades. Ooh. Elevator shaft. And this is the ordinary way down for boring people. The elevator. Oh, haven't been into the women's room yet. Looks like there's something in here. But it's not highlighting. That's weird. Usually when it looks like you can go through a ventilation shaft, you can go through the ventilation shaft. Oh, and here's the staircase. Where I killed 2 guys. Alright, but that's enough. So, now it's back down to the next floor, but we'll be doing the rest of the exploration next time. This week, for the Foreigner's Dystopia Corner, we'll be looking back all the way to the first dystopia of them all, arguably. Like most literature genres, there's really no firm example of first in the world, since new genres tend to mutate out of the older ones. Nevertheless, I'll be taking a stab at it by covering the novel We, written by Yevgeny Zamyatin. About the author. Let me first begin with a brief overview of where the concept of a dystopia came from. The genre takes its name from a perfect example of its opposite, the book Utopia, written in 1516 by the Englishman Thomas More. Utopia was about an island in the New World with elected representatives, a dislike of wealth and extravagance, completely collectivized property, free healthcare, and zero unemployment. It also allows 2 slaves per household. The punishment for premarital sex is enforced celibacy for life, and you aren't allowed to travel freely even within the nation without a passport. Also, the book's name is bitterly ironic. Utopia is Latin for nowhere. Utopia was not the first work of its kind. In fact, the book takes a lot of pages out of what may be the most famous example, which is Plato's Republic. The Republic is technically a dialogue, but it's mostly just Plato through Socrates describing what he considers his ideal society. Then again, if mythology counts, the Garden of Eden would be even more famous, although it does depend on how you interpret the first chapters of Genesis. Meanwhile, many consider Thomas Swift and Gulliver's Travels to be the origin of dystopian literature. And for reference, dystopia is Latin for bad place. Basically, all the nations Gulliver visits are allegories of England, and one of them, Balnabari, is ruled by an upper class of scientists who are so dedicated to their experiments and to modernizing their estates that they've let the rest of their nation fall to ruin. Swift would later write that this was a satire of the Royal Society of London, along with elitist intelligentsia in general. Anyway, back during the turn of the last century, at a time when scientists and engineers were making massive advances in medicine and transportation technology, utopian idealism was really big in early science fiction. H.G. Wells in particular was a big believer in science as a political savior. He was a socialist, a pacifist. He wrote about his ideal one-world government in a book titled The New World Order, and he started out thinking that eugenics was a good idea before he eventually realized how terrible and racist it was in practice. But then, of course, World War I happened. A decade-long death knell to the idea that science is always a good thing. It was at this point that the first dystopias appeared, and I distinguish dystopias here as being satires of ideal utopian societies as opposed to Swiftian satires of real cultures or governments. Yevgeny Zamyatin wrote his novel in 1921. Although being a Russian, he ran into some trouble when it came time to publish. Zamyatin was a naval engineer and an early Bolshevik, and he was arrested and exiled several times before the revolution. He returned just in time for the October Revolution, and while in Russia, he spent his days translating people like Jack London and H.G. Wells. And as the Soviet government began to establish itself and begin its long tradition of harsh censorship, he became increasingly disillusioned with communism. When Zamyatin wrote We, the government absolutely refused to publish it. In fact, the novel has the distinction of being the first work to be banned by the Soviet censorship board. As such, in 1923, he smuggled it out of the country and had friends of his publish a copy translated to English in New York City. Then, in 1927, he managed to get a Russian-language publisher in Prague to distribute it in his native language. When people began smuggling copies of his book back into the USSR, Zamyatin got blacklisted. and so in 1931, he asked Stalin personally to let him go into exile in France instead of just killing him. Stalin agreed, and so Zamyatin spent the rest of his life in Paris, where he died of a heart attack in 1937 at the age of 53. The story. We takes place in the United States, a city of glass, which is, for all the inhabitants know, the only surviving bastion of humanity left on the planet. Centuries ago, the 200 Years' War destroyed the rest of the world, and the only reason the United States survived is because they hid behind massive walls of green glass and discovered petroleum-based food. Incidentally, all the buildings are made of glass too, so it's easy to see what everyone is up to. The United States is a nation of perfect order. They follow the teachings of F.W. Taylor, a man who was not a philosopher and made no claims to be one. What Taylor actually did was develop scientific management, which argued in favor of writing down step-by-step instructions for how to perform a task, actively train employees who can do the job instead of forcing random people to learn on their own, and get the managers to do the writing and the training so the employees can do the work. So, not a bad idea for organizing a factory, but not a philosophy for organizing society either. Our protagonist is D503, because people are numbers in the United States. D is the chief builder of the Integral, a spaceship that in 120 days will travel the solar system and spread the word of the United States' perfect scientific happiness, by force, if necessary. Inspired by this mission, D has decided to keep a journal, and he's decided to call it We, because we is more important than I. His journal is what we're reading, in case that wasn't clear. D begins by talking about his relationship with O90. By the way, consonants are men and vowels are women, at least as far as the characters in the book go. The way sex works in the United States is that a central office assigns everyone a value based on their attractiveness and importance to the state. They then hand out a number of pink checks based on this value, and you can then use them to have sex with a person of your choice during one of the day's 2 hours of personal time. Each apartment is equipped with a set of curtains to provide privacy for this one act. D503 and a poet, R13, tend to prefer O90, and so the three of them are kind of in a family unit. One day during a supplementary walk, which is a bit more like a spontaneous march with how people walk, D meets I-330, a woman with some curiously old-fashioned ideas, along with S-4711, a man with a bent back whose intense gaze gives him away as a member of the Guardians, the secret police of the United States. I tells D to go to Auditorium 112 the next day, and much to his surprise, D finds himself assigned there. The presentation is a retrospective about how foolish civilization was back before the war. Part of this presentation is I-330 wearing a black dress instead of the usual blue coverall and playing an old song on a piano. A song that isn't just scientifically determined chord progressions. Much to his surprise, D finds himself captivated by the music, for a moment. Later on, I-330 makes D503 go with her to the Ancient House, a museum about pre-war society. She talks to him about culture and inequality, and she puts on a yellow silk dress that puts thoughts in D's head that he doesn't completely understand. He leaves when his free hour ends, but he finds himself procrastinating instead of going to the Guardians like he should. The morning after, he finds himself dreaming for the first time in his life, and so he goes to the medical bureau instead of the Guardians. He doesn't go the day after that either, and by then the grace period to not be implicated has ended. D goes to watch an execution, during which a number convicted of making a satirical poem accepts the punishment of the well-doer, the state's leader, and he steps into a machine that melts him down into his component molecules. Later on, D gets one of I's pink checks, and goes to her room, where they talk about how he's screwed now since he didn't go to the Guardians, and how I enjoys smoking and absinthe when no one is watching. For his part, D experiences lust and jealousy for the first time. D spends some time after that trying to recover his sense of normalcy, but then I calls him up and makes him miss work, using a doctor friend of hers to write them a valid sick note. They go to the ancient house to have more sex, and afterwards I mysteriously disappears. Meanwhile, O is starting to get suspicious, and so is U, the controller of his apartment building, who monitors all the inhabitants. I stop seeing D for a while after that, which drives him crazy. At one point, he even makes his way to I's building when he should be going to work, and S catches him. However, instead of taking him to the Guardian headquarters, S brings D to the medical bureau, where the doctor from before informs D that he has contracted a soul, an incurable malady. He gives D some more time off and recommends that he spend his time going on long walks and thinking. While on one of his walks, D stops by the ancient house and has a look inside, but he gets spooked when he sees S below him. D jumps into a cupboard, only to discover it's a secret elevator into an equally secret passage underneath. I is there, as well as the doctor, and they quickly escort him out. Later, I starts sending him pink checks to give herself an alibi. As for O, she's discovered her relationship by now and given up on D. But she wants him one last time because she saw a presentation on babies and now she wants one, even though unscheduled pregnancies are illegal. Also at around this time, U decides that D needs some guidance and some matronly love, since she's a school teacher when she isn't monitoring the building. The day of unanimity comes, a celebration of the unanimous election of the well-doer to another term in office. Except, it doesn't go right this time. Hundreds of people vote against the well-doer, and this is such an unheard-of event that it makes everything feel uncertain. The state performs some damage control by saying that anyone who voted against the well-doer clearly wasn't in a right state of mind, and so it still counts as a unanimous vote, but things are starting to deteriorate. On the following days, the word Mephi starts appearing on all the walls. I, who is a part of this scheme, takes D all the way through the secret tunnel under the ancient house and shows him the world beyond the green wall. To his shock, it's actually in pretty good shape at this point, and there are humans out there who are living in primitive conditions but are otherwise doing fine. They're also covered in hair, unlike the mostly hairless city dwellers. These are the Mephi, who take their name from the demon Mephistopheles. I gives a speech to those assembled and says that with the help of D, the Mephi will take over the Integral and use it to spread their creed instead of the United States. Thanks to the stunt on the day of unanimity, the government rolls out an operation to remove the fancy, or the imagination, from the brain. Fancy is an illness, a dreamy desire for more that keeps people from acting like perfect machines, and numbers are better off without it. They shut down work for a day so everyone can get the operation, but enough numbers are worried about the implications to cause riots in the street. D is initially excited about the operation, but then I gives him an ultimatum. Either he can remove his fancy and have his perfect happiness, or he can have I. He chooses I. Just before the Integral takes off, O shows up again. She doesn't want to lose her baby, and so D directs her to I so she can smuggle her out of the city. Then, when the Integral takes off for a suborbital test run, the Mephi try to take over the ship. However, the regular staff had been warned, and they successfully stopped the mutiny. I blames D for the leak, but it turns out to be U, who had been snooping through D's journal. Afterwards, the well-doer himself calls D to his office and berates him for letting himself be taken in by the forces of anti-happiness, who are only using him to get to the Integral. D has no response to this. But by the end of the meeting, he realizes that the well-doer isn't some massive, perfect machine like how he presents himself in public. He's just a small old man with sweat running down his bald head. The next day, someone blows up part of the green wall, letting birds and nature in for the first time in centuries. That evening, Dee and I make up and have one last night of passionate sex with no pink check in sight. Dee then goes to the Guardians to confess everything, but the man he confesses to, S, turns out to be in league with the Mephi. Ultimately, however, Dee is caught by the authorities and forced to go through the operation. With no more attachment to I or the others, Dee gives up everything he knows, and I is captured and tortured in front of him. The revolution is still in full swing, but the story of D-503 ends here. The analysis. Remember how I said that the Garden of Eden is, in some ways, utopian literature? Because We is a retelling of Genesis chapters 2 and 3. The comparison is deliberately invoked more than once. Humans were perfect before the fall. Humans were happy and content. But then we ate the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, and we became troubled. We learned shame and had to cover our nakedness. We learned guilt and hid from God when He called to us. According to Paradise Lost, we also learned lust, and we learned hatred, as Adam and Eve tried to shift the blame onto each other. D, Adam, is tempted to sin by I, Eve. S is the snake, the double agent who facilitates this fall from grace. But now here's the twist. In this telling, the fall from grace is a good thing. The good guys are the ones who name themselves after the second most famous demon of temptation, Mephisto. The United States has told D-503 all his life that happiness is the goal of humanity, that the greatest happiness comes from doing what you're told without any ambition or any desire to make independent decisions. And they're right. Like the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. Something a lot of adults wish for is the ability to go back to being a kid when they had no responsibilities, when they didn't have to worry about money or bills or raising children of their own. But happiness is not what humans want, and We is a demonstration of this fact. Despite all the ups and downs of love, the jealousy, the longing, the lust, and the anxiety that come with caring for another person, D would rather deal with all of that than live eternally happy. It doesn't make any sense on the surface of things, but I just talked about this last week, and so I won't belabor the point today. To make a long story short, humanity is better off for having fallen, and happiness should never be your ultimate goal. Remember, life is pain. Anyone who says differently is selling something. We is also a novel about order versus chaos. The city and the United States were built as a response to the chaos and death of the 200 Years' War, and the Green Wall keeps out the anarchy and supposed desolation of the world beyond it. These people looked to order and perfection to save themselves from death, but they overcompensated. They forgot that humans are animals too, and that we are chaotic beings just as much as we are orderly. They began to resent the fact that randomness is built into our DNA, that our bodies come in all different shapes for a reason, and especially that our imagination is our birthright. They forgot something that I brings up just after Dee's visit outside the wall. There is no final number, and there is no final revolution. After his operation, Dee thinks that the forces of order and reason are bound to succeed, but based on the book's themes, it's inevitable that reason will eventually fail. The book also has a lot of symbolism, in the most direct sense of the word. Critics have speculated that Zamyatin had synesthesia, which is a condition where you process sensory information as if it came from a different sense. For people with synesthesia, numbers have colors. Colors have sounds. Sounds have smells. That sort of thing. And from reading yeah, I can see it. Colors are an important part of the book's descriptions. The clear blue of an unbroken sky represents purity, and numbers wear sky blue uniforms. Yellow is temptation, the yellow of Ai's dress and the yellow of a Buddha statue in the ancient house. Green is the wildness of nature and the green wall that keeps it out. White is the color of mystery, since it represents the white of Ai's teeth, the clouds that mar the perfect sky, and the fog that occasionally descends and obscures the world. Red is the color of punishment and death, the red ribbon that binds the arms of those who receive the death sentence, and the red of the hellish fire that hides just beneath the crust of the earth. On top of this, the characters are the personifications of their letters. D is conflicted, half round and half straight. O has a round head and a round mouth. Eventually her belly becomes round as well. S has a deformity that curves his body into an S shape, and he represents the curving snake, or Satan, both of which start with S. I stands tall and straight, and it's no coincidence that she's the individualist and stands against the book's title, We. I versus we. That last interpretation is a bit different in Russian, since their singular first-person pronoun uses a different letter, but it's worth pointing out that Zamyatin understood English and had lived in Great Britain for years designing icebreaker ships. He would have known what the letter I means in English. Thanks for joining me again today in Dystopia Corner. I hope you'll join me next time as I take a look at Japanese cyberpunk.